Hello, today's case is about addiction to heroin. A young man, Hamid, 37 years old. I met him at the rehabilitation center where his wife took him. The center was located in Europe and he was brought there in a totally unconscious state. The wife was saying that she took him while he was intoxicated, put him into the plane, and that was the only way to bring him for the treatment. He was spending almost 3 months at our center before any treatment could have started. Why? Because he was in extremely aggressive state. Every time he was waking up, he was aggressing the personnel. He was crushing everything he saw around him. And the administration of the center decided to sedate him with tranquilizers, and that was the only possible way to start therapy afterwards. I didn't start working with him straight away. There was a specifically trained medical team for working with this kind of extremely aggressive patients. I started working with him a little bit later. Of course, he didn't want to admit that he has problems and that he has to undergo therapy. He was rejecting any assistance at all, and it was very difficult for the staff to invite him for the therapy. How did our first meeting happen? I came to his room as a matter of regular everyday check-up, and we started talking about the general things, and I found out that he's very passionate. He's very enthusiastic about religion, Islam, which he could have been talking hours and hours about. So I decided to pick this thread, and when we started discussing different thoughts, different points of view, and that I should say that I was the only psychologist at that time who he allowed to approach him, because all the rest he just refused to talk to them. So basically religion was that bridge which allowed us to come to the therapy. And afterwards he even confided to me that he was not aware that we were going through the therapy. It was this transition passage was made so light that it didn't put him in a defense against therapy. So I should say about the facts which influenced actually his addiction. And these facts are connected with the specificity of his family circumstances, with his life, and of course with his attitude to what has been happening. He's the fourth child in the family and the youngest one. His parents got divorced when the mother gave birth to his older brother, and mother decided to live her own life, basically in his own words, and also in the words of his sisters and brothers, with who I had a chance to talk afterwards. Mother was actually abandoned them and went out to have fun, to enjoy her life, and left the three children with their father. So that fact actually was very traumatizing for the rest of the kids who are adults now. But in what it concerns Hamid, it was basically a very decisive moment in explanation of his addiction. So the parents actually got reconciliated after a few years, and as a symbol of this reconciliation and their second marriage, Hamid was born. The fact that this boy has a difference with his older brothers and sisters of 15 years also impacted very much his position in a family. So the circumstances in which mother re-entered the family were the following. She before, in her first marriage with her husband, she was more westernized woman who was very young at the time when she got married, 17 years old. And when she remarried her husband for the second time, well, basically she was much more mature, and she opened Islam for herself, which has changed the rest of her life. She started wearing hijab, she started being a very religious woman, going to the mosques, and the principles of Islam have become her own principles. And of course, the family is a basic fundamental rule and pearl of Islamic life. So for Hamid, what influences it had for him, he was educated in a very much religious way, very strict, but also in a way that he became the symbol of mother's renaissance, rebirth, and that really impacted the boy a lot. Also considering that at the time he was brought up as a single child in a family. He was, while his brothers and sisters had almost 20 years, 25 years old, he was a small 1-year kid. So basically this very kid was educated in a totally different way from the rest of the brothers and sisters. Why I insist on this point that he's different from the rest of the kids is that actually the sisters asked me the question, why them, who have also tried from time to time some addictive substances, hashish, even heroin, LSD, they have never got issues with addiction. They never wanted to go for more. And actually this is the answer, is that addiction is not basically the question of trying something, but of the inner structure which influenced this wanting, this hunger for more, avidity for absorbing and consuming more. So the other specificity of Hamid was that his wife, he got married also at a relatively early age when he was studying at the university, and he met a girl whose name is Hamida. Very interesting that those two names have got similar roots. I'm not saying that this is something which influenced and has got a specific accent, but anyway, it's interesting that there are just like two symptoms of one disease, or two halves of one fruit, which is actually, this is how it happened. So he was saying about his wife that she was not his choice. And actually this wife chose him, and she insisted on the fact that he marries her. He said that when they were dating and he wanted to break up with her, she said that either you marry me, either she suicides. And that was done in a quite manipulative manner, which was running through their marriage life afterwards. So I would also like to stress on the point that his addiction, he has not been addicted all his life. His addiction started exactly with the time when he got married to Hamida. For the time when he was brought to the rehabilitation center, he had been already addicted for 15 years, and that's how long his marriage was lasting. And also another significant fact about his life is his place in his adult life in his family. His father and his family was the owners of a big family business in his country, and the father was preparing his older brother, who is not him, to take the post of executive of this huge organization, transnational organization. And he was very much preparing and looking at his older son as a new boss, new director of this company. And also his sisters were prepared as assistant executives to the general director. So everyone was in leadership positions. While Hamid, who was at the time a young boy, just graduating from his university, didn't have that much of trust from the side of his father. Well, actually, at least this is how he describes that. He was saying that his father never saw a leader in him, that he was never entrusted him with any important missions, and he felt underestimated, undervalued, and he felt envy and jealousy towards his older brother and sisters. The way he sees his father and parents as good figures, someone who are highly respected, but the figures towards who he is not able to express himself, to talk, to approach and to express what he was really feeling about. He said that he has never been able to talk to his father about his worries, about his feelings of undervalue, or even if he tried to, that was not taken seriously, because father was answering that you have everything you can dream of, how come you can be complaining about something. And yes, also one more thing is that, which is also significant, he was born already in a family who has achieved a certain level of wellness and material well-being, while his brothers and sisters in the first marriage of their parents, they were still experiencing that period when the parents were just getting on their feet, when they were just building their well-being. So in comparison to his brothers and sisters, he was born in luxury, and he has never known what it is to experience a lack. While his brothers and sisters, they clearly in their speech you can hear the phrase that you have everything you have to achieve, you have to work hard, because it is not given. It is not given from no one. So they are very well aware of the feeling of lack and what it is when you have to put lots of efforts in order to build something. So these are actually the 3 points which are very active in the analysis of addiction of Hamid. The first one, the conditions of his birth. Second is his wife, and third, the conditions of his life as adolescent and adult man. As I told you, he didn't allow anyone to work with him. He was not admitted to therapy at all, and his family decided not to listen to his protests, but to continue the therapy. And they suggested that I would come to the country, and since he was very aggressive about his stay in Europe in that rehabilitation center, we decided that I would move to their place, and probably the conditions of his country would allow him to work more. He was not against at all. He supported this idea, but it was more executed in a form of friendship. So he said that I can talk with you about religion, and you're also a good friend of mine. So I don't mind if you would go to my country. So the country where we worked, the conditions were particular. Actually, there was no therapeutic space, as you can imagine. That was a home where they were living, and I had also my own place, my own cabinet there, where Hamid was able to come. However, of course, it was not strict in a therapeutical idea. Actually, the therapy occurred mostly with his brothers, sisters, mother and father, which was also important for reintegration, for the comprehension, for the listening of the symptom who was Hamid for his family. But Hamid actually was not very enthusiastic about analysis himself, and the issue which I discovered afterwards was his wife. She was making lots of obstacles, conscious or unconscious, so that to prevent him of getting treatment. From one side, you can see that she was very active in trying to help him to get rid of that addiction. She took him to rehabilitation center. She was looking for the good doctors, and she was insisting on the therapy. But when it was happening on the place, she was that element who was motivating the doubt of Hamid if he needed that therapy or things like that. And I heard from her one phrase. She said that these were her words, that she was at the beginning when she saw him becoming addicted, and she said if he gets recovered and he will feel better and he will not need me anymore, I will have no regrets to leave. So basically, this is the point to which I'm coming now, is the reason of his addiction. Actually, here are several facets. The first one is his wife. That addiction to heroin is actually addiction to his wife. Definitely, once the wife is out, if, for example, in case they get separated, of course his addiction will take a different flow. If not to say that it will disappear at all. And also interesting fact about the type of addiction. The substance of addiction is very important in analyzing the unconscious message. For example, when a person takes hashish, it's rather for becoming more communicative, to be able to start talking with another freely. When a person takes LSD, it's more for new sensations. But in case of heroin, it's interesting to know that heroin has also this root of hero, is a kind of, at least in this case for Hamid, it's the reconstitution of oneself as a hero, reconstitution of his undervalued part, the part which has not been appreciated, which has been taken for granted. And speaking like that, I'm speaking with his own words. So here is the second factor, and also the third factor is his symbolic role in the renaissance of his mother and reconciliation of the family. Hamid came not more like a life subject with his own desire, but rather as an object, a symbolic object of his family. First of all, he was a symbol, as it's been told already, of reconciliation of his family, and secondly of his mother, who has, in her words, found the right way, who has become more religious. So that is to say, Hamid was a symbol of his mother's way to God. So these are the three factors which constitutes the specificity of addiction of this patient. And I believe that if the question with his wife and the question of his appreciation from the side of his father has been resolved, as well as attitude of his mother and her insistence on him as a symbol but not as a child, would have changed, he would not have had a need of this escape into addiction anymore. The analysis actually lasted less than 1 year. Why? Because of the conditions and his desire, or better to say his non-desire to work, his desire and also the desire of his wife, when she realized that there is the whole team working on his recovery. She has become very anxious about that and was making lots of obstacles so that to prevent him from getting the treatment, of course in an indirect way. So what's happening now? This case happened several years ago, and unfortunately the patient has not recovered from his addiction. No one has been able to help him, even though he has been treated at the best American, Canadian, European rehabilitation centers. By the way, since our analysis, he has never undergone analysis afterwards, and he has never allowed any psychologist to work with him afterwards. He was just going from a medical treatment, from one medical treatment to another treatment. but now he continues working as assistant at his family company, still at the lower post, because the brothers and sisters hesitate about allowing him more responsible post. So he has his small cabinet, he has his small house, which is much more smaller in comparison with the palaces of his brothers and sisters. So in his life nothing has changed, and it goes as it goes. So this is the end of the story. If you have any comments, please write them down. If you have any stories or you would like to share your question, please do so, and see you in next video.